Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Dr. Rosemary Gray, Program Coordinator for the Master of Arts in Teaching program in Lane County. On behalf of the Pacific University Board of Trustees, faculty, and alumni, I am pleased to welcome all of you to our 1996 commencement. I'm especially pleased to welcome the family and friends of our honored graduates. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank several people who are a vital part of our Lane County Pacific community. Dr. Willard Kniep, Dean of the School of Education, who shares with us his vision, his dedication, his energy, and all with a spirit of flexibility and a sense of humor. Dr. Camille Wainwright, from our main campus in Forest Grove, who has more than met the demands of the task of interim leader and bridge between our two campuses. Dr. Nancy Meltzoff, coordinator of the Standard Program and professor of the MAT program, whose energy, organization, and professionalism enhance our programs and benefits our students. Doctors Karen Baldwin and Kay Fry, professors, student advisors, supervisors, whose knowledge, dedication, and a presence serve as a professional beacon for students and colleagues. Dr. Ray Hull and our adjunct instructors, dedicated professionals all, who share their knowledge, their experience, and their enthusiasm. Doctors Mary Kimball and Mark Bailey from our Forest Grove campus. Also, the many mentor teachers in the schools whose expertise, guidance, time, and energy provide a critical component of any teacher education program. And I'd like to take this time, too, to thank several people upon whom I depend every day. Susan David, the administrative coordinator, and Susan Laycock. It is these two who help our office keep in running order and keep all of us on track. And I couldn't let this time pass without thanking Flora and Kim, our helpers, upon whom we depend and really appreciate their help. I'd like to take, too, this opportunity to offer a special thanks to Nancy Watt, our school liaison. It is Nancy who works with the School of Education during the admission process for all of our students and who is ever there to offer his assistance throughout the year. The graduates you see before you are an exceptional group of people, and I feel very fortunate to have had the opportunity and privilege to share this year with them. I'd like to turn and address this to you, if I can make it through it. Throughout these months, each of you has shared a part of yourself, your presence, your actions, your thoughts, your silences. You've been artists as you created stories and presented pictures, and as you created a symphony of laughter. And you've been champions as you overcame stress, perhaps with some tears, and many challenges. Teaching. What a marvelous profession. Teachers have a multitude of opportunities that no other profession, no other people have. Teachers get to serve as guides for students, providing a space safe for being one's whole self, for listening to the rhythm and the individual patterns of life, for stretching the imagination. Teachers have the tools to build fires of whimsy, ecstasy, and creativity. Teachers, with their students, get to learn. They get to be open to new ideas and to be ever in awe of the beauty and challenge of learning. Teachers get to share an octave with students who then race on to write symphonies. I remember reading that the really successful teachers are those whose students don't need them anymore. You are indeed a special group, an exceptional group. The educational concerns and the classroom curriculum and professional challenges and changes you have studied, shared, discussed, and applied during your internship experiences are examples of the standards of excellence you have set, the professionalism that you've modeled, the warmth, caring, enthusiasm, and dedication you have personified throughout this year. During your time in the classroom, I think each of you experienced the specialness of your class, your students, your kids, and I too have known the specialness of you, my class. I've heard several of you say how difficult it is to leave your students as the holidays near and you take your leave. I agree. It is difficult. For me, this day has come too quickly. As teachers, you too will soon know the mixed feelings of pride as you see your students complete your classes, and sadness as you see your students leave. I join with the faculty, staff, alumni at Pacific University in honoring you for achieving a goal today and for becoming a member of a most wonderful profession. I do rejoice with you in your special completion of this program and on receiving the Master of Arts in Teaching degree, but at the same time, I'm sorry to see you go. I really will miss you. Congratulations to each of you, and to quote a part of the song by Bob Dylan, may you build a ladder to the stars and climb on every rung, and may you stay forever young. Now I would like to welcome Dr. Donald Rushmer, Pacific University's Provost and Vice President of Academic Affairs, to come to the podium. Donald.
That's a hard act to follow. Good afternoon. First, let me bring greetings and congratulations from the Pacific community, and in particular Pacific's President, Faith Gabelnick. Faith very much wanted to be with you this afternoon, but had to be on the East Coast for business and, more importantly, for personal reasons. She is proud of your accomplishments and wishes every one of you the very best in your future endeavors as you enter and continue your careers in education. Given this chance, however, I'd like to add a few words of my own. In Pacific's mission statement, we stress the word service. Service to a changing community, nation, and world. No profession exemplifies this more than that of teaching our children. Of all the many professions that might fit this description, I believe that none is more important than this one. More and more, it is the teachers that hold this nation's future in their hands, for our legacy is in our children, and our future lies with them. This is a courageous step you're taking, and I honor you for it. You are teachers at a time when we as a nation are asking more of our schools than ever before and demanding that you do it with less. We all wait anxiously to see how our legislature will decide our priorities after the passage of Measure 47. To simplify the issues to the basics, prisons or schools? Or, in my opinion, to put it in medical parlance, do we address the symptoms or do we address the cure? Your work will be most challenging and I suspect rather crazy-making. We ask you to teach our children, all of them, whatever their abilities and wherever they come from, and do it well. More, we also expect you to take up our responsibilities as parents, as more and more of us are single parents or working parents with other responsibilities than raising our children. We ask you to do this, but only if you espouse the same values as we do. And of course, we ask you to guess what those might be. And we certainly don't want to pay you for the privilege. I believe one of the primary issues in our ongoing family values discussion and debate is the need for parents to come back to the raising of our children. And you, as teachers, will have the job of helping us do so. Awesome tasks all, but you're all up to it. With all this, your work will be incredibly rewarding. There's nothing more satisfying than seeing the light in a child's eyes when they learn something that excites them. And they're all ready to be excited. In your business, as in mine, the true rewards come when we touch people, one at a time, and each in his or her own way. So the true task, then, is to look for those opportunities to spark each child's creativity and help each create their own opportunities to help them realize their full potential as individuals and as citizens of our community, our nation, and our world. Ultimately, and above all else, teaching is an act of love. There's no greater gifts than the conveyance of knowledge and the skills with which to use it. And I know that each of you brings those gifts to your profession. We are glad you chose Pacific and that you spent this time with us. You have been and will remain members of the Pacific family. Let us hear from you often, as we will continue to help you achieve your successes. I congratulate each and every one of you on your accomplishments and wish you all the best as you move to the next challenge. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rushmer. Now I am pleased to introduce three of our graduates, Kevin Gordon, Peter Almeida, and Abra Bertman. First, for the elementary program, Kevin Gordon.
Dr. Rushmer managed to use some of my best stuff up here. I've got a bunch of note cards and I'm going to go with them, okay? So here we go. It's an honor, first of all, to have been selected by my peers to be here and represent especially the elementary program. I was gone from school one day, and when I came back, I find out that I had been chosen. Such is life, that's what I get for skipping class. Okay. This year went by really fast. Here we are, 12 months worth of hard work later and about $15,000 and ready to do something with ourselves. So I think first of all that we as a class deserve a round of applause for making it this far. I would also like to take the opportunity at this time to thank all of you, our support networks, the people who clothed us and fed us and paid our rent and phone bills and let us call collect. Let me show up at their house to do my laundry, all of that. Thank you to all those who have loved us and have got us here. A lot of people think I'm crazy. Should be of a fair amount of concern to myself, should also be a fair amount of concern to the rest of the people sitting over here in the funny hats, because a lot of people would think the same way about them. When asked, most people, when you ask them what is the importance of education, most people will say very sincerely, oh, I think education is terribly, terribly important. However, when you ask them if you would ever consider being a teacher, most people are really relatively quick to say no. I've made a big assumption here, but that's been my experience that when I say I'm going into teaching, most people would say something along the lines of, that's great, but the look in their eye and their body language such says that they think I'm nuts. So we've all been out there learning the methods, developing our own style. We've still got a long way to go. We will learn more with every experience that we have in the classroom as a substitute teacher. Often experience as the best teacher. We've come home late, beat and exhausted, wanting to curl up and call it a day, but alas, could not. There were papers to grade, work samples to write and rewrite, lesson plans to write, and some of us even managed to, very few I think, maintain some sort of personal life outside of the program, which was quite trying to do over the year. Those who love us have been very supportive, again, and did quite a bit to get us here, and very patient. So yes, part of me understands why people would think that we're crazy going into this program, going into this profession. Teaching has become a job where individuals, buildings, and districts are forced to do more with less every year, at a time when society is quicker to fund a prison than they are to adequately fund a school. We struggle to do our jobs successfully while we continue to pour money into the wrong end of the program, the wrong end of the system. The teacher's role is ever expanding. Not only are we educators, but we are also role models, friends, disciplinarians, often surrogate parents. Teaching and educating has become not only teaching kids to read, write, and do arithmetic, which will teach them to succeed in the often artificial environment of school, but we must give students the tools necessary to succeed in life outside of school. We must teach them to work well with others. We must try and give them a positive self-image, teach them to be socially competent, set goals, and solve problems. There's nothing new in what I'm saying up here. I'm not a visionary. I haven't had any revelation. I know that what we're going into is something that we are taking very seriously and we hold very dear to our hearts. So let what I've said and what others will say today just kind of be a yellow Post-it note on your collective conscience and remind you how you should think of things. Teachers must always know more. There is whole language, phonics, multiple intelligences, varied learning styles. ADD is the diagnosis du jour. We must always be learning how to deal with different students who are facing things that we as students couldn't even imagine, and coming to school with those problems. And our job still is the same. Our job is to provide them with the best education possible. There will always be new theories about how kids learn best. New doesn't necessarily mean right. There are some teachers who've been teaching the same way for 30 years and they are excellent teachers. But you shouldn't be afraid to try new things, experiment, and be aware of changing ideas in education. Constantly evaluating yourself. How we teach and the methods we use depend largely on what type of person we are and what our own personal style is. We must find methods that work for us, we must be self-critical, and we must constantly make adjustments in the way we do our job. Bottom line is that if kids in our room are learning and enjoying learning, then we are successful. And that's a piece of cake, right? Maybe we are all crazy. It seems pretty easy to find reasons to not want to teach. Why are we here then? I wouldn't have been here a few years ago. I've gone through some changes in my life that have made me think differently about what I wanted to do, and that's why I'm here today. So I personally believe that all kids can want to learn. I believe that all kids do have a basic goodness about them. I believe that kids can and should be excited about school, and that those who aren't can be drawn out or transformed, sometimes by chance, often by a great teacher, if the situation lends itself. Now, of course, I have a story by one of my favorite authors. His name is Robert Fulghum, and he is an educator in the Seattle area, also an author. And it's about a kid who was given a chance to go through a transformation. It's a simple story, but I like it, and I wanted to share it, and I'm here, and you're here, so it really is very convenient. A kindergarten teacher I know was asked to have her class dramatize a fairy tale for a teacher's conference. After much discussion, the children achieved consensus on the old favorite, Cinderella. The classic old rags to riches story that never dies, cream will rise, is the moral of this tale. Someday you may get what you think you deserve. Cinderella was a good choice as far as the teacher was concerned because there were many parts and many room for the discretionary padding of parts so that every child could be in the play. A list of characters was compiled and the class talked through the plot of the drama. There was the absolutely ravishing Cinderella, the evil stepmother, the two wicked and dumb stepsisters, the beautiful and wise fairy godmother, pumpkin, mice, coachmen, horses, the king, and all the people at the king's ball. Generals, admirals, knights, princesses, and of course, the ultimate object of fabled desire, the prince. The children were allowed to choose their roles for themselves. As the parts were allotted, each child was labeled with a felt pen and paper and sent to stand over on the other side of the room. Finally, every child had a part, except one, because there always is one. One small boy who had remained quiet and disengaged from the selection process, a somewhat enigmatic kid, different, and because he was plump for his age, he was often teased by the other children. "Well, Norman," said the teacher, "who are you going to be?" "Well," replied Norman, "I'm going to be the pig." "Pig? There's no pig in this story." Of course, Norman's response was, "Well, there is now." Wisdom was fortunately included in the teacher's tool bag. She looked carefully at Norman. What harm? It was a bit of casting the type. He did have a certain pigginess about him, all right. But so be it. Norman was declared the pig in the story of Cinderella. Nobody else wanted to be the pig, so it was quite fine with the rest of the class. And since there was nothing in the script explaining what the pig was supposed to do, the action was left largely up to Norman. As it turned out, Norman gave himself a walk-on part. The pig walked along with Cinderella wherever Cinderella went, ambling along on all fours in a piggy way, in a costume of his own devising, which was, of course, pink long underwear, complete with the hatch door, and a pipe cleaner tail, a paper cup for a nose. He made no sound, he simply sat on his back haunches and observed what was going on, like some silently supportive Greek chorus. The expression on his face often reflected the details of the dramatic action. Looking worried, sad, anxious, hopeful, puzzled, mad, bored, sick, and pleased, whatever the moment required. There was no doubt what was going on, and no doubt that it was important. One look at the pig, and you knew. The pig was so earnest, so sincere, so very there. The pig brought a gravity, a mythic import to the well-worn fairy tale. At the climax, when the prince finally placed the glass slipper on the princess's foot, and the ecstatic couple hugged and rode off to live happily ever after, the pig went wild with joy. He danced around the stage on his hind legs, and he broke his silence by barking. In rehearsal, the teacher had tried to explain to Norman that even if there were a pig in Cinderella, that pigs did not bark. But as expected, Norman's explanation was, well, this pig barks. The presentation at the teachers' conference was a smash hit. At the curtain call, you can guess who received a standing ovation. Of course, it was Norman, the barking pig, who was, after all, the real Cinderella in the story. Now, that's one of my favorite stories out of that book. And it's a simple story, but I also realize that it is rare. Things like that don't happen every day. But smaller Cinderella stories are going to happen in our classrooms every day. There's going to be the kid in the back of the room who rarely participates, who is quiet, who it's usually like pulling teeth to get him to raise his hand. And one day the subject matter will strike him, and you'll maybe tentatively raise his hand, or his hand will shoot up, and you'll call on him. And that is a small Cinderella story. There may be the kid who really struggles with math, struggles with fractions. And as you're explaining it to him for the 15th time, suddenly the lights go on while you're looking right there in his eyes, and that is a Cinderella story. Mm-hmm. Or there may be the kid who tries and tries in class. He's anxious to raise his hand, but frequently wrong. And you call on him, and he raises his hand, and he gives the correct answer. And when you tell him it's correct, he smiles. And that is a Cinderella story. So there are some things that are going to keep us going. That's why we're here. So few jobs offer such opportunities to be so satisfied. Maybe we are all crazy. Part of me still understands why people may think so. But the rewards we will enjoy are so great. We stand here at the beginning of a career that will both consume and fulfill our lives. Maybe we are crazy, but I cannot think of any other way that I would like to spend my life. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Good job. Next, Peter will perform a piece he has written titled Paradigm Shift.
This is a song I wrote as a component for a creative project in class here. And I'd like to dedicate it to all these teachers. might make you nervous and feel uneasy. Look at something different, see the world through someone else's eyes. Look at something different, step into another frame of mind. The paradigm shifts, reality slips, old models fall to the side and open up our eyes. Follow a rainbow across the sky, multicolored people celebrate life. Think of a world, population of people, where everyone's different, all people are equal. Celebrate the difference, see the world through someone else's eyes. Look at something different, step into another frame of mind. The paradigm shifts, reality slips, old models fall to the side. See possibilities in other realities, lending validity to multiversality, to free creativity and spark curiosity, sending humanity on towards our destiny. In the place of a child and practicing patience. It might take a while, it's one step at a time, to grow and discover as we reach for the sky. Never say never. Something different, see the world through someone else's eyes. Celebrate the difference, step into another frame of mind. The paradigm shifts, reality slips, old models fall to the side. The paradigm shifts, reality slips, old models fall to the side and open up our eyes. Our eyes, our eyes. Here's a thought. This is a picture.
And now I'd like to welcome Ever Bertman to the podium, who will speak on behalf of the secondary program.
we have some special thank yous we'd like to make to the staff, our office staff, and Rosemary and Nancy.
First person that we would like to thank today is Susan David. And Susan often served as kind of the glue that held Pacific University Lane County together. I don't think there was a day went by that Susan didn't have to answer a question not once, but 10, 15, 20 times, because we were often calling upon her to fill us in on what we had or hadn't heard or were not aware of. So Susan David, I hope you can make your way down here. Thank you.
We'd also like to thank Susan Laycock. If Susan David was the backbone of the office, Susan Laycock was the emotional support we all needed. And I want to thank her personally for me. I love you very much.
Then when Pacific realized that it needed more than 2 people to help run the office, they took on Flora So, who often helped out with our newsletter. She put a great deal of work into the yearbook we're coming out, and I know that Flora kept me right on top of exactly how much money I still owed Pacific University. So Flora, thank you. Another person who means a great deal to all us graduating here today is Nancy Meltzoff, who was the first class we took, and the professor of the first class we took, and she was a rock. She was tough, and she was responsible for all the classroom community that we built, the friendships and relationships that we will leave Pacific University with. Nancy helped us build.
And finally, we'd like to thank Rosemary Gray, the director of our education program, who fastidiously read and proofread our research projects. Thank you so much. On behalf of all of us, I'd also like to thank our mentor teachers. They were with us through thick and thin, and I know that every one of us benefited from their example as well as their wisdom. I know that it was hard for them to give up control of classrooms and help us with problems when we needed it, but they have to know that we appreciate all they did for us in the last 4 months. Thank you so much. I would also like to thank our supervisors from the university. These were the people who saw our tender underbellies in the classroom and were able to evaluate our performance with tact and instructive criticism. Our supervisors gave us confidence in our abilities, and their enthusiasm and support helped us get through our very brief moments of doubt. During my internship in the high schools, I noticed that students have a palpable lack of motivation to do their homework and engage in classroom activities. Why is that? It seems to me that most students don't want to be in school and consider their work in schools as something to do before living real life begins. They slog through each day, actively trying to learn as little as possible, minds dulled with inactivity, rote learning, and a curriculum that often doesn't ask students to question and explore. I think that the most meaningful, satisfying, and ultimately motivating form of learning happens when we notice things and become curious about them. Elliot Eisner said that the most difficult of intellectual tasks is not primarily in solving problems, but in formulating questions that give rise to them. In the course of life, he says, the ability to conceptualize what is problematic and to formulate interesting questions is fundamental in maintaining one's intellectual autonomy. Since one of the primary tasks of a high school education is to give students the skills and confidence they need to live an independent life, and since most students struggle daily with issues of autonomy, we must give students the intellectual confidence that begins with curiosity. There are different ways of being curious. It's not just a matter of discovering something esoteric, of building a new machine or discovering dinosaur bones in the jungle. There are many, many ways to be curious about a single phenomenon. For example, have you ever walked by the river and looked down at your shadow in the water? Why is it that there's a halo around your shadow and not around your companions? Why does the halo seem to shoot from the eyes of the shadow rather than from the center? I'm sure that this phenomenon can be explained in terms of the physics of light, but the curious mind can also approach these halos in terms of art and literature and religious history. Curiosity is not just a matter of asking why something happens, but also of asking how we can explain it, describe it, or cherish it. It is a way of expressing our human qualities and understanding the world from a multiplicity of perspectives. From the way air moves into the skies to the texture of bricks on the sidewalk, the world is full of beautiful, interesting things that beg to be identified, explained, and enjoyed. I believe that the goal of education should not begin and end with reading, writing, and arithmetic, or any body of knowledge, but should have as its basis a critical joy in the way the world works. If we teach students to approach learning from the perspective of serious and inquisitive play, and not as a bitter medicine whose usefulness can only be enjoyed later, perhaps we will be rewarded with students who are more involved with their education. I'm not suggesting that schools should be a chaotic place of random experiment and completely independent learning. It is important for children to have a common base of knowledge and a thorough understanding of the tools they will need in order to slake their curiosity. But the 3 hours taken alone are extremely unuseful. There is a difference between reading something because it must be read and reading something in order to understand the world. Unless students have as their motivation a spark of curiosity about something, the 3 hours will seem like useless drudgery and will help to further the lack of motivation that exists in schools today. It's the curious people who make things happen in the world. They build bridges. They want to understand the subtleties of law. They consider how the human body works and how to heal it. The curious write books, read books, and discover new worlds, both figurative and literal. If we're concerned about the substance of American education and the absence of motivation in our students, then we must try to instill in our students, first and foremost, a sense of curiosity. When that is accomplished, the real learning will begin, and we will be able to watch our students thrive with expectation of the mysteries to be pondered, uncovered, and explained. I'd like to end with a poem by Alistair Reid. It's called Curiosity. Curiosity may have killed the cat. More likely, the cat was just unlucky, or else curious to see what death was like, having no cause to go on licking paws or fathering litter on litter of kittens, predictably. Nevertheless, to be curious is dangerous enough, to distrust what is always said, what seems, to ask old questions, interfere in dreams, smell rats, have hunches. Do not endear cats to those doggy circles where well-smelt baskets, suitable wives, and good lunches are the order of things, and where prevails much wagging of incurious heads and tails. Face it, curiosity will not cause us to die. Only lack of it will. Never to want to see the other side of the hill, or that improbable country where living is an idyll, although a probable hell, would kill us all. Only the curious have, if they live, a tale worth telling at all. Thank you.
Thank you, Amber. Now I'd like to invite to the podium Dr. Willard Kniep, Pacific University's Dean of the School of Education, who will introduce our commencement keynote speaker.
Thank you, Rosemary. And before I do that task, I'd like to add my congratulations to all of you. I'm extremely proud to be here today, participating in this graduation ceremony, this commencement ceremony, and participating in awarding your degrees, which we'll do later today. Before I introduce our speaker, maybe a little introduction of our graduating classes in order as well, because they really are an interesting group. You are a very interesting group. I suppose you know that, and yes, you may be a little nuts, but we all are, aren't we, in this profession? Your average age happens to be 31. About a third of you are still in your 20s. Another third of you are 30-something. And almost another third of you are over 40. Many of you come from Oregon or had experience in Oregon universities. In fact, almost 3/4 of you graduated from a university in Oregon. In fact, 19 of you graduated from the University of Oregon, right here in Eugene. But as we look at the resumes that you bring to this program, many of you come from a variety of other places as well, from Hawaii, from the University of Michigan, from Troy State University, from the University of Nebraska, from Pomona State, from the University of Illinois, from Emerson College, from St. Bonaventure, from the University of Minnesota, and even other places. And you bring many interesting experiences. And we've talked about how impressed we are with you and how proud we are of you and how well you have performed as a class. And we wish that we could take credit for everything that you're going to take into your classrooms, but we can't because you bring so many interesting experiences and backgrounds with you. Among you is a specialist in the making of shaker furniture. Some one of you has been director of a preschool before coming here. Some of you has, at least one of you has been a guide for raft trips. We have ESOL teachers who have performed in both Taiwan and in the Czech Republic. We have at least one Walt Disney World employee, or former Walt Disney World employee. At least one of you has worked for the Oregon Shakespeare Festival. We have 2 foresters. We have a dressmaker. We have a salmon processor. We have somebody who has worked in marketing. We have somebody who has worked as a language teacher in Japan. I know that I've missed some of you. But it's very, very interesting to us that people come from so many walks of life. And in many cases, make a second career choice to enter this honorable field of teaching. And you now are teachers for the 21st century. All of you will spend most of your chosen career in the century that is to come rather than in the century that we are in now. And the children that you will teach will spend the greatest portion of their life as workers, as citizens, as decision makers, and a whole variety of other roles in the 21st century. And what's that likely to be like? I wish I could tell you. As I was thinking about this, I reflected on my own experience graduating some 30 years ago and looking back. And I certainly would never have believed someone if they had tried to predict some of the changes that I've seen in the world at large and in education in my 30-some years as a teacher and educator in other roles. So while we can't predict the future for you, one thing that we can say with some certainty is that you're going to face change. One example that came to my mind as I was thinking about this is the whole issue of technology. When I and some of my colleagues graduated, when we did, high tech was a ditto machine that wouldn't crumple the papers and smudge the ink and soil your fingers so terribly that you were blue the rest of the day. The PC hadn't even been invented in the 1960s when I graduated. And it would have been hard to imagine a tool that we could use in the classroom that could put ourselves as teachers and our students in instant touch with resources and people around the world. Look ahead in your own career. And I guarantee you that there are changes coming that we haven't even thought of, that we can't even imagine, that you will confront. Some of what you've learned in the program here at Pacific, I think, will serve you well. Some of what you bring will serve you well. If you take with you a love of learning, if you take with you the ability to tolerate ambiguity, if you take with you a love of diversity, I can guarantee you that you're going to succeed and be able to adapt to the change. I wish you well. I join Provost Rushmer in inviting you to stay in touch. You will continue to be part of the university community, and we look forward to your success. At this point, I'd like to introduce our keynote speaker for this afternoon. Daniel Duarte is Vice President of Education and Training Consultants Incorporated, which provides interpersonal communication services to businesses, government, and education organizations. He is an adjunct faculty member, not only at Pacific University, but at Oregon State University and Portland Community College as well. He is the past Director of Counseling and Advising at Portland Community College, Director of the College Assistance Migrant Program at Oregon State University, a former university instructor and counselor and elementary school teacher. Mr. Duarte earned his baccalaureate degree in education from Idaho State University and his master's degree in guidance and counseling at Oregon State. From 1983 to 1984, Danielle was a Kellogg Fellow in the Educational Policy Institute for Educational Leadership in Washington, D.C. Mr. Duarte's training, experience, and expertise in group facilitation and group processes are applied to consulting in the areas of change, communication, and cross-cultural issues. And one of the things that I think says most about Mr. Duarte is the fact that he's been an instructor in this program, and his students ask that he be the keynote speaker. Mr. Duarte.
Thank you so much. I guess it's been established you're crazy. The crazy graduates of 1996. I'll get to that in a moment. Dr. Rushmer, Dr. Knief, faculty and staff, family and friends, graduates. I was listening to my introduction, realizing it's a never-ending story. I'm almost brought to a sense of pride of realizing my own accomplishments. I hope you realize yours today, the ones you've had in the past, and the ones yet to come. But since you are the crazy graduating class of 1996, this impossible mission force, I have a challenge for you. Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is as follows. Playground duty, committee work, English as second language, attention deficit disorder, free and reduced lunch, learning disabilities, tag, tenure, fetal alcohol syndrome, bilingual certification, broken bones, sexual harassment shelter, English, whole language. The hearing and visibly impaired, sim, cam, measure 47. Migrant education, every cold and flu bug you can catch, cultural awareness, content, education reform, field trips, one subject, 200 classes, or one class, 200 subjects, depending on if you're secondary or elementary. Planning time, race relations, parent-teacher conferences, and several 900-foot-tall cyclops. You're absolutely crazy. As always, should you or any member of your impossible mission force be caught or killed, the secretary will disavow any knowledge of your action. I've been having a lot of fun these last few weeks, actually, imagining my life as a story. Mythological, with cyclops and monsters and warlocks and witches. Partly because of the readings I do. I'm reading again The Return of Merlin by Deepak Chopra, who is a doctor who writes about mind and body goings-ons. But The Return of Merlin is an adventure, it's a novel. I've been imagining myself in a story like that. Mission Impossible. Hercules. Les Miserables. El Duarte Chicano Spirit God Prince meets Abbott and Costello. Anyway, in the book, it is a special adventure that starts out in the time of King Arthur and the Round Table and Guinevere and Merlin. And the magical time is at a low, and the good magic is at a low, and the bad magic is on the rise. And in one scene where the bad magic seemingly overcomes the good magic, we appear in the story now in present-day England, where magic hasn't been seen for a time, good or bad, or understood for a time, good or bad. The magical world of the past in King Arthur's court starts creeping slowly into present-day England in the countryside, filling the lives of common people doing common jobs, until the story plays itself and magic has totally overcome present-day countryside in England. And there is a battle for good and evil. And I started seeing my own life walking down the street now. Little battles and big battles. The jerk that cuts me off on the freeway. What do I do with him? What do I make of him? What do I turn him into as I murder? And in my life, like in the stories are full of choices to be made. Messengers coming to you, who to trust, who to believe in. Who's cloaked as a panther as a tiger, as an owl, as a bird, with good magic. Who to trust? Disastrous results in my daily life, disastrous results in return to Merlin. Hiding places, hiding for respite, or hiding out of denial, bated breath. Take a breath. Ah, take a breath. Oh, don't let it be bated anymore. Fears to overcome. There's hate. There's love in the story of Merlin. There's hate and love in my day-to-day life. But there's a mission. And there's a leap of faith. And there is victory. And then like a never-ending story, it starts up again. Today isn't the end, it's a beginning. It's a never-ending story. Is the book of Merlin, is my life as I describe it, is it over-dramatized? No, I don't think so. We are as fearful and powerful as any work of fiction or account of fact. You've been here before. You've done this before. You may be cloaked in that illusion. This is new. This is the end. This is the culmination. You're crazy. It's a never-ending story. You're on again. You're off again. Gird yourself. Get ready. It's a stream. A stream. A stream of your conscience and consciousness. So, all these things that I listed off to you, they aren't really a impossible mission. They are more mission. It is more mission than impossible.